Alright, we're going to do the final cleanup for the year. So this is the last of the concentrate I have for the year. You see it's lots of black sand. Get close on that. So we got a lot of black sand and garnet up here. This is Vermont glacial till, pulled from one of the rivers close by. Where, I can't tell you. Miners got to have their secrets. But this is an eBay special sluice box. I think it cost like maybe 117, 120 bucks. It's basically a plastic gutter system capped off. It comes with a little water pump. It plugs into the wall. I'm sure you could upgrade that to a 12-volt system to make it a portable unit running out of battery. But so for right now, I just got to take this material, classify this down to this size. Not quite sure, that's around 1/8 inch. We're going to classify it down to there, and we're going to take what's left, we're going to put it in the sluice box, and then we're going to do the final cleanup after this is ran off. We've separated our materials, then we'll come back, take the sluice box mat up, we'll roll it up, wash it off into my pan, and then we'll get a final gauge of how much gold was in it. This is actually quite efficient at finding gold. I run it slow, with a steady slope. I mean, I'll put 1 to 2 spoons in there, figure out how fast I need to do it when I first set up. Try to use some junk material that's not got gold in it first when you do that, just to watch and see how it works. But other than that, we're going to get set up here, and then we'll start doing some of this classifying and get that started. We're going to classify down to about 1/8 inch. Got myself a little setup in the sink. This is pretty easy. You're going to take your little colander, strainer, whatever you want to call it. We're going to take this material in the pot, and we're going to take about enough coverage to cover the bottom, make your wrist not hurt. I've got arthritis now, so I try to work a little longer and a little easier, so I'm not draining the crap out of my bones and stuff, hurting. But really, I'm just going to be taking about that much material, get it over the water, shaky, 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 shaky. Really, it ain't that long. Gold is heavy. Physics allow the gold to drop out first because it's way heavier than all the rest of the material in here. And we're left with all the heavies and all the bigger stuff here. In other places, I would be concerned about looking in this if there's load gold, but in Vermont we have a lot of placer gold, so the glaciers have ground it up into fine flour gold. So I really don't waste my time looking for nuggets, just because this is most likely flour gold. Some of the bigger pieces I found have even fell through this 1/8 inch hole in the strainer. So I'll take this material and I'll actually get most that I can in there, and then I'll repeat the process. So I'll get back to you here in a minute, and for me it'll be a few minutes, probably about 20 minutes, and I'll do this up. By the way, if you're scared of getting wet, don't do this. I'll save those tailings, bigger stuff that I'm discarding right this second, and later on I'll do a final cleanup on that when I get a bunch of tailings built up, because sometimes we will lose a few flakes, but it ain't even worth my time to go through and run my tailings every time I do this. I'll just get a big stacked up bucket of tailings, and then I'll go and run that on an outdoor sluice box that runs off the garden hose off the side of the house. this is the last scoop. We're going to switch containers over now, make things a little easier on me when I'm working on the recirculating sluice box. Got our discarded material separated over here. Put that in. Leftover contaminants on this, or any of my other material, tools or material, so I don't end up with cross contamination. I'm doing a test somewhere, so I need to know exactly what's coming from where. So remember to clean off your tools. So we'll discard this. Would not suggest doing any of this in her sink. Make a table and do it outside. I'm lucky to have a good woman, so. Alright. Now, drain off all this top water in here. So I'm going to use this for working out of. I'm going to stratify this material. Anytime you're trying to shake this material, you can move it as you're shaking, but if it's not moving, it's hard to put your fingers in it. But if you go like this, your fingers sink right down. That's just like what the gold does. So if you're stratifying, that's what they call this motion when you're doing that, the stratifying. When you're stratifying that, your gold will drop to the bottom. Most of the time. Sometimes we have flakes of gold that are so thin that I have a hard time getting them to settle when I'm stratifying because of the amount of black sands that we have here. And garnet, you see how dark that is? That's serious black sand. But that's some serious black sand, so I'll rinse this stuff down. Put it all into one corner. Dump the excess water out. Leave a little to work with. Over the top. Show you guys how to fix that. I'll just take a little bit with it tipped upside down like this so it has a downhill slope. Take a little scoop of water and drop it on the pan up above your material and it'll run out the bottom. I'm going to set this pan back up in here and get this pump running. Alright guys, you got the tailings bucket filled up with water. You got the sink filled up with enough water to cover the ports on the little pump, the bilge pump. We've ran it at full speed, got the bubbles out of the matting, and we've got the bubbles out of the lines and pump. So now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this on, get our water flow turned down, and then we're going to start feeding material into it. And we're going to do like 1 or 2 scoops and just see how the material runs inside these little riffles. And I'm going to turn it to where I feel it's satisfactory, that it's actually turning the material and pushing stuff out, but it's leaving the gold behind. So we'll get back with you in just a minute. We'll get this set up. Okay, so we have a bit of new software we're using. We're trying to play around with some new stuff, trying to make this better. And you know, I'm kind of happy with what's going on so far. So we'll keep playing around with this, experimenting, and hopefully you guys like the quality change. All right, guys. If you watched this far, we want to give you a very, very big thank you. We don't ask you to subscribe, but I mean, if you do, you'll get notified about any newer videos. Any of the comments and stuff for like making these videos any better, any tips, advice, stuff that you liked, stuff that you didn't like, you guys just give us a comment. That stuff really helps beat the algorithm. That's actually better than subscribing and liking from what I've heard. So, you know, if you can, just drop a comment down below and we'll get back to the video.